Hello, everybody. It's Friday. Hello, hello. Come on in. Come on in. Hi, Joan. How are you today? I hope you're doing well. How's Paul? Hope you're having a good Friday. No pun intended. A good Friday day. Hello, Christy. How are you? I haven't seen your name in chat for quite a while. I'm glad you're here. I'm so glad to see you guys. You're fine? Oh, that's good, Joan. I'm so happy to know that. I am so happy to know that. Hello, Connie. Christy, I hope you're doing well also. Hope life is going well. Just trying to get a couple things together here to show. Sometimes things cooperate and sometimes they don't. It's a great day today. It is. Other than it's a little bit humid outside. Looks like it kind of acts like it wants to rain. You know, it's that humidity before the rain thing. Kind of acts like it wants to do that. And so it's a little muggy. It's a little bit muggy out there today. Just a little bit. You have Patty and Xander coming to see you next Saturday? Oh, how wonderful. That is so great. Are they just coming over? Oh, good, Christy. Are they just coming over to visit or tour around, or what are they doing? That's so great. And I assume they're traveling together? I would love to come see you. See where you live. I would love that. Maybe someday. It is so good to see you guys. Thanks for joining me today. We may have, hi Linda. Hey Ruth. Miss Ruth, how in the world are you? I hope you're doing well. Is the sound okay for you guys? I hope it is. Hope that we're in good shape today. Linda, tell Tim, give Tim a big hug for me. I'm so glad that his seeds are coming up and that he's getting to see all their little heads poking up out of the dirt. That's great. Yeah, so let's see. I just have, I'm still moving. I don't know how long I'm going to tell you that, but I'm moving still. My sewing room at the other house, which, mind you, was full, packed to the nines. Hello, Caroline from Belgium. Thank you for coming. It's so good to see your name in the chat. I don't know if I said your name correctly. You can correct me if I didn't say it right. Carolyn or Caroline. Anyway, I'm still moving. The sewing room at the other house is getting close to empty. I have all my books to deal with. Yes, there's a lot of books that I have to deal with, make some hard decisions about what to keep and what to cut. Ruth's getting ready for a family reunion. Wow. On Sunday. Oh, thanks, Ruth. I just got it cut and colored. And I'm going to tell you something. It needed it so much. I don't know what happened. Periodically it goes through a growth spurt, Yeah. I have. I would like to deny that, Joan, and say, "Oh no, it's a piece of cake." But the truth is, it has just been yeah. Excuse me, I got to get a little bit of hand lotion. My finger is going a little crazy again. And so I gotta put some stuff on it. I won't subject you to looking at it. Anyway. Yeah, it's been pretty crazy. I got a break, when we went away for our trip, for our vacation and honeymoon and stuff. I got a break, and so that was wonderful. But then you know what? Nobody did anything while I was gone. I can't believe it. Nobody did a darn thing while I was gone. Just waited for me. And it's the starting of the thing that is always the hard part. And do I move stuff over here and put it away as I go? That's what I did in this area, because that was the only way I could figure out to kind of keep sane in this room. But the sewing room is a different room, and it's at the other end of the house. And yeah, so I just finally decided I just had to move everything in, and then I'll figure out how to deal with it. Anyway, it's been crazy. So there you go. There you go. Okay. Yeah, so this morning, if you could have seen me trying to put together something to do today so that it made sense. I'm like looking through boxes and looking through boxes and looking through this and looking through that. And then we had family come to stay for the weekend, and and it's just like, and they were keeping the dog for them also. And my dog is fragile, and she's super old, and she doesn't hear. The one sense she has left is sense of smell. And so I wanted to carefully introduce them, and that they ended up introducing themselves to each other, and that worked out just fine. But I'm like, it was just sort of a lot of chaotic energy going on all of a sudden. But anyway, we're getting there. We're doing fine. Okay. So some things I wanted to share with you. Hello, Dorothy. Thank you, and same to you. So some of the things I wanted to show. I told you about some of the things I showed you last, I think it was Monday. But I've slept since then, so I'm not sure. I think I showed you some things that I had done from a cutter quilt. And I wanted to show you said cutter quilt. And so I'm going to show you stuff that I found, that I've been finding and unearthing. And, I'm trying to make decisions about what to get rid of and what to move and that kind of thing. Because the space that I'm moving in is consolidating, and it's a great chance to downsize and sort and get rid of a bunch of stuff. But I can't get rid of this quilt, because it's just got too much. Got too much that is too good. Anyway, so here is the cutter quilt that I'm going to show you, and I referenced, so I'm going to give you a big shot of it. So this is the cutter quilt I referenced. There is another quilt which is in much worse shape than this one, which I ended up donating to Goodwill. But this is what I mean by a cutter quilt. Can you see how this is all ragged? The batting is gone from inside here. Many of these patches are absolutely threadbare. See how threadbare all of this is. And it's pretty much the white fabric, not all of it, like this pink fabric is going away as well. And anyway, it is some of it's in good shape. Like here's a patch here that's not in bad shape at all. But these two quilts were being used in the bottom of dog cages at a veterinarian hospital, and one of the vet's wives who owned the practice rescued them and gave them to me. So this is what I mean by cutter quilt, because it is shredding all over the quilt. Okay, so that's what I'm referencing when I tell you it's a cutter quilt. It is, you've got to figure out some other way to use it, because if you don't find a way to stabilize it and use it, there's far too many patches and places that need to be repaired, that by the time I would repair all those to make it a usable quilt, I would be better off to just build a new quilt, right? Right. So in order to stabilize it, this is a section that I have been working on. And so this is, I did this quite a long time ago. But what I did is I put a piece of muslin on the back because it needed a new backing, because in some cases the backing was also shredding. I mean, it's been around for a long time. So I put a new piece of muslin on the back, and then I started stitching. And you can see a little bit of the stitching pattern I did here. And this is one of the big squares of the pink. This one was not in bad shape, and this one is not in bad shape. They're not shredded like some of them. But I just went in here and I just stitched in the different patches. In some cases, making up my own design, and in some cases, playing with a little bit of the Zentangle-esque designs in here. I mean, this is a little bit like Zentangle, but you know, not totally. And by doing that, there is enough stitching now that is stitching through to the new backing. You can see how it's stitching all the way through the new backing. That stabilized this quilt, this section of it, and then it allows me to be able to use it. And I've used this for a number of things. I've put it on the outside of a journal. I've used it to make hearts, those little hearts of love. I've used it for any number of things. And so if you have a piece of textile art, whether it's a quilt, or sometimes you can have those, you remember those old linen calendars that used to be able to get, you know, they were kind of like touristy novel kinds of calendars, but they were always a linen type fabric. They're usually painted or screen printed. And then, like, my mom used to use those after the calendar was done. She would wash them, and you know, it's because some of them were good enough to use as a tea towel kind of thing. And things like that, once they're kind of done, you know, have served their purpose, you could take that and you could back it with muslin or a piece of really thin batting and a muslin behind it. You could quilt it, and you know, you can give it new life. Anyway, so there you go. I just thought I would show you one of the things you can do that I found as I was, because I told you about it, and then I'm like, I wonder where that quilt is. Well, I found it. So there you are. Also, in my looking through things and finding and unearthing things, I came across this. This was a suggestion or an article based on an article in, I think it was a Somerset magazine, but it could have been Quilting Arts. I'm not sure. And this is fabric, and let's see, is this all fabric? I think it's all fabric, and a lot of it is painted fabric. And this is felt, I think, behind the windows. Anyway, it was based on an article that I found in some magazine. This was my test house, and it was easier said than done, especially up here on the roof. But this was the test one I did, and then I did another one of them, and I sent it to Dee Dee Willingham years ago. She probably didn't even have it anymore, and I don't blame her if she doesn't. It's forever ago. And so let's see, are you guys still here? I'm just checking because the chat's not moving, so we're just gonna do a little test. Okay, it looks like we're still here. But it was a fun little project to do. A little tricky to put it together because you can put part of it together with no problem, but then it comes to the last seam And actually, this one was never totally finished. You see there's a pin right here. See there? There's a pin holding the bottom together. So I clearly never totally completed. There's another pin. And the other one I did turned out a lot better. I don't know why I never finished this one, but anyway, I didn't. You're still here? Okay, good. Anyway, it's just a little piece of fiber art using up a whole bunch of scraps. Many of them are hand dyed, hand painted. I look at it and I go, you know, this was kind of fun. I should do this again. Maybe I will. Who knows? Anyway, if you know me very well, there are several themes that recur in my art. One is hands, one is houses, one is faces. There's several themes. Mandalas. Let's see, what else? I don't know. Anyway, those are sort of recurring themes that I use over and over in what I do. And the houses, I'm always attracted to anything where, I mean, there's when we were in San Francisco a few weeks ago, we took a bus tour because we had too much time between getting off the ship and going on the plane to fly home. And so the bus tour took us through a section of San Francisco where these houses were brightly colored, but they just look like boxes. And there's actually a song written about those box style houses. But they're so brightly colored, and I don't know if I got pictures of them or not, to tell you the truth. Let me see if I can pull up a picture. Hang on just a minute. Okay, now they were called Little Boxes. That I think is the was the song. Okay, here it is. All right, let me show them to you. I don't know that I'm going to be able to. This is not a picture I took, but this is, if you kind of squint your eyes, because this is zooming in really far, but you see how boxy those houses look, and yet they're different colors. And so of the whole tour that I was on that day, that was what just struck me, were those houses and how colorful they were. There's also a section in Kansas City, an older section of Kansas City, where all the houses look like what you would imagine the Hansel and Gretel houses, you know, little gingerbread kind of houses. And those kinds of things just are so entertaining to me. They can occupy me for a long time. Yeah, I think that's what it's called, is Little Boxes. Yeah. Yeah, it's a funny song. Anyway, so that's part of my attraction to houses. Anything that I find, you know, in magazines, whether it's a decorating magazine or an inspirational magazine or a sewing magazine or mixed media, that kind of thing, I'm always attracted to anything that utilizes houses. Anyway, that's one of the themes in my life. This was another thing I ran across when I was cleaning stuff out, and this is one of the mandala patterns from one of the books that I have out there, and this is done with transferring the design using a heat tool and a laser copy or a toner print, and I transferred it onto this. It's just a cheap wooden circle. This is from Mandala Melange, the 8-pointed star mandala. And then I colored it with, I think, Inktense pencils, I think is what I did. Couldn't tell you for sure, but I think that's what I did. Anyway, I should do something with it. Maybe I'll put it with the rest of the mandalas. Who knows? this is something we did on stream a long time ago. And this was using grocery store bags, okay, just grocery store brown paper sacks. And we did these different mixed media techniques on them. And then I used them. This is a color combination that ended up looking like army fatigues. Stucco houses in California, Southern California. Isn't that funny? Houses are just one of those things that are so interesting. Anyway, this ended up looking like army fatigues, the colors I chose, but you know, it is what it is, and it's still usable. But we did several different ones, and like I said, they're all done on grocery store bags. And then there are just different, I think I used the same prompts, I think, on all three of them. And then from there, we made some stuff out of them. So here are some of the samples that I have left. So this was clearly from a different one of those bags. And this is, I just made envelopes out of it and the reinforcer, made my own little reinforcement circle things that I sewed buttons on, and I sewed the envelopes up. So it's one of the many things you can do by making your own papers. Here's another one, and this is washi tape. This is tape that I created right here. So is this. Another style of reinforcement used with squares and brads. So that's a brad that's holding them on. So these were from the same paper bag treatment. I like the colors of this one. Here is the army fatigue one. And a different style of envelope. And this was probably inspired from somewhere. I do not remember. But it seems like what I did on this was use some prompts from some of the card decks that I have. Do you know that when I got ready to move, I love card decks of all different kinds. Even made my own card deck of Mandala cards. And those card decks, I finally collected them all in one spot. One of these days, somebody remind me, I'm going to show them to you because I have a huge basket full of those. It's crazy. It's crazy. Anyway, I love them all. So here's one of the army fatigue one. And this is kind of a fun treatment. So this is a double, I think it's a double circle of, cardstock, or it could be multiple layers of this glued together. I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, glued the top half of it, but not the bottom half. Left this little flap out. And then I cut, there's a slit cut right here. See that? That's how it holds this closed. Now, acrylic paint sometimes can get a little sticky, and so you may have to kind of work at getting it to slip in there. But anyway, you open it up, and this is a great kind of thing to write a letter that you can send to somebody, and it's the envelope and the writing surface all in one. So there's that one. Hey, Linda. This is another one. So this was from one of the other ones I showed you to start with. Same thing. It's got a slit, a little circle to help with the closure. Aw. Oh goodness, Linda, that's sad. That's too bad. We will definitely send you wonderful, wonderful, power-packed love and energy for healing for you and for your daughter. So there's another one of the envelopes, and then this is yet another one. Same thing. Same exact style. This one, it wants to be a little sticky. Acrylic paint is known for kind of sticking things together. This one, you might have to put a piece of white paper in there or something to cover up the grocery store. Name of the grocery store. You could always gesso the inside of the envelopes and let it dry really well, and then you have a writing surface that way. Hey, Sarah. Good to see you. Oh, Sarah. I couldn't remember what funny picture you posted of your dog. Now I remember. Now I remember. Because I screenshot it to put on my roll of pictures, because I just laughed so hard. I hope it's okay if I show it. This is the, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is the dog. I think this is your dog that had a birthday when she was a puppy. You can correct me if I'm wrong. And this is what Sarah posted. Downward dog. I thought that was so funny. Now, is that the same dog? Is that the same puppy? Isla? Isla? Is it pronounced Isla? And is that the same one? I thought this was so funny. I laughed so hard looking at that. Yeah, so hard. Anyway, so cute. Anyway, I finally remembered what it was. She's 10 now. Aw, that's amazing. Anyway, I wanted to tell you that I finally remembered what it was I thought was so funny. And this is the other one that I wanted to show you. This is a different size envelope. I don't know that these envelopes are any kind of magical size. I think that it was whatever I had available to me, and maybe this is what was left over after I did other projects. I'm not entirely sure. I sewed them up though, sewed the envelopes, so it's just one piece from here to here, so it's the whole thing. Then folded up, shaped the flap, and then I stitched to close the envelope. And these, I made the reinforcer, or the, I don't know what you call those things, those wraparound deals. They're not exactly reinforcers, but I made those, and then these are put on with shaped brads. So one of them I sewed on with buttons, and two I put on with brads, and then I just used some kind of pearl cotton for the string. Now, if you were going to send something like this through the mail, they're a weird size, so who knows how much postage it would cost. And of course, you'd have to put a white label on there so that they could actually read the address. But anyway, every once in a while I run across some of the stuff I did. This was one of those instances, and I went, well, that was fun. And I'm pretty sure that I did these on stream years ago. Could have been back to the Ustream days. I don't know for sure. Anyway, it's always good to run across some of your stuff. And if you have things like this, I mean, of course, this could be a book cover, but not because I chopped into it. But you can have stuff like this on hand. Do a big piece of a grocery bag, or the paper that comes in an Amazon box, or the brown packing paper, and recycle it and paint it up. And it doesn't have to be fancy. Like, this is not fancy painting. This is like scraped paint, and then using those fabric paints that are in the bottles with the squirt tops on them, that I just did some stuff, and there's some stamping on them, and that's pretty much how those are made. But if you make those and have them on hand, then you've got stuff ready to go. No, it will not. It should not ruin your sewing machine at all. I use my sewing machine, which is an old Bernina. I use it to sew paper and fabric all the time. Keep your needle changed, however. Now, you shouldn't have any problem sewing paper with it. You want to use a needle that is the smallest size needle that you can use, sewing machine needle, because it will poke a smaller hole in the paper. And you need to lengthen your stitch length so that you are not piercing holes too close together. If you pierce the holes too close together, it just perforates and it'll fall apart. But it should not do anything to your sewing machine. Keep your sewing machine clean, which means brush the lint out of it, because paper puts off more lint than fabric does most of the time. And so just keep it clean and you should be fine. Yeah, you should be fine. You shouldn't have any problem. But if you have a problem, don't blame me. Don't blame me. Okay, some other things I ran across. This was I know, I don't know if you guys enjoy the walk down memory lane doing this stuff or not, but you know, here it is. So this was a bookmark that I did. All of these pieces in here are the paper that I did, the Momigami paper from Kneaded magazine pages, and that's what all of these pieces of paper are. So all of those are just colorful images that I did the Momigami treatment on, and then I cut them up and made a vase of flowers and made a bookmark, and it says, "A book is a garden carried in the pocket," an old Chinese proverb. So that was, I don't even know what's on the back of this. It looks like it might be deli wrap or tissue paper or something. But on the front, it's just black cardstock, and then over the black cardstock is black netting. You see the netting? Don't know whether you can see it or not, but that's got black netting over the top of it, and then I stitched. This is free motion stitching to stitch around all the pieces and parts. The pieces and parts were glued on, probably with glue stick. So there's that. Another thing that I did a lot of, because I love doing bookmarks. Here's another one. This one's done with fabric, and that's stitched. Sarah, that's fabric is stitched onto cardstock. Okay, so you can combine and stitch both. So that was done in 2015, and I was doing that a long time before that. My machine is just fine. Oh yeah, that's right, Dorothy. Totally right. This was from one of the canvases I did back in 2012. I did a canvas a day. I was going to do it for a whole year. I did it for 6 months. And so I took those canvases and made copies of them and then turned them into ATCs. And that's what these are. So this was actually a little canvas I did, turned into ATCs, and I have a whole bunch of them for some reason. And then we did I forgot what it was we did, but some sort of contest or something, and for participation, if you participated in it, you got a bookmark of my son, Race Owen, that we called Hot Sun, and somebody made a whole bunch of these bookmarks and sent them to me. I don't remember who it was, and we used those as gift for anybody who participated in whatever the thing was that we were doing back at the time. Anyway, that's Race, in case you've never seen him. I think most of you've seen him, but yeah. That's my number one son. But somebody made those. I didn't make them. Somebody made them and sent me a whole bunch of them, which was very thoughtful and sweet. Okay, now a couple of other little things to show you, and then we're going to get going. This was from a class I did online, an online class, and I love this little project. I absolutely adore this project. There's nothing like loving your own stuff, right? But I love these little bags. They're just, back when I was using the corded earbuds most of the time, and I still carry a set of corded earbuds for my phone and that kind of stuff in case my Bluetooth ones quit on me, run out of charge or whatever. Then I have a corded set with me, and I keep them in one of these little bags. Anyway, I love these little bags, and this one lost its little doodad. I don't know where its little doodad went. I'm gonna have to make one. This is probably my prototype. And anyway, you open them with two of the tabs, and they're little lined bags. So the short strings open the bag, and the long strings close the bag. And this was fabric, a commercial fabric that I painted with fabric paint to tint it. Same thing on this one. So this was actually a black and white print, and then I painted it with various shades of red and pinks with I probably Dynaflow paint. Anyway, the short strings open it, and there's the little bag. And the longer string, and they're also two different colors. The strings have the little doodads on the end that are different colors, and it closes. I don't know where the doodad went for this one. Who knows? Anyway, I love little things like that, you know. So I thought I would show you that. One other thing that I found in the going through, I showed you this couple streams ago, but what I had that is, I told you that these are done. Krissa, hello. Good to see you. You finally found me. Well, welcome all the way from Greece. Good to have you join us again. Good to see your name in the chat. So this is done with one of my face stamps. This is called her name is Odivern. That was the name of that face. One of my viewers made this for me a long time ago and sent her to me. And what I thought I would show you was that the same face stamp I used to make a Santa. It's a little Santa ornament. He's a little worse for wear at this point, but same face stamp, male versus female, different kinds of eyelash treatments and so forth, different expressions. And well, I missed you too, Chris. I'm glad you're back. I'm glad you found us again. So here's another one with a short moth-eaten beard and one with a long beard. But again, same face, same stamp. So I just thought I would show you how you can take if you have a facial stamp of any kind, mine or somebody else's, and you can do male or female, make them male or female, just depending on how you decide to interpret them. So just thought I would show you that. All right, and last thing I want to show you is I ran across a bunch of journals that I had made, and I'm going to be giving these away. So I need to coordinate with Race because he has to help me run the giveaways. It's much easier when somebody else runs the giveaway and not me. And I don't think he's around. Hi, Barbara Clark. You're sort of here? Okay. With your cat on a leash. Gotcha. Okay. No worries. So anyway, I'm going to show them to you, and then I am randomly, from time to time, going to give one of these away, and I will send it to you. Okay? Wherever you are, I will send them to you. This one, let me tie the string, tie it back together. I made these a number of years ago. I don't know how many years ago, but I made them about a long time ago. And they are made from old hardback books with hand created fabrics and so forth. So I'm going to show them to you one at a time. And then when I start giving them away, when we do that, then it'll just be whatever one I decide to give away. Okay? So this is one of the journals. They're jelly plate printed fabrics and stamped. So they're stamped and jelly plate printed. It has a tag on it. This is this and that book. This is a journal or whatever you want to use it for. The pages are stitched in with wax linen, and then the wax linen tails are, I think I twisted them. I did different things on them. I twisted or braided it. And I did that specifically. I kept everything flat, so when you open the journal and it ties closed, each one of them is like this, or some variation of. When you open them up to work in them, they will lay flat on your surface. So they have hand printed end papers and then a little art thing in the front. Yeah, it's on the website, Dorothy. Ruth. I couldn't tell you where, but it's on the website. I did it. It may have been a VIP project, but I really don't remember. But it's on the website. So these are done. This was inspired by Joanne Sharp. So this was inspired by the way that she works. And this is watercolor paper. I'm sure it's cheap watercolor paper, but it's a watercolor paper of some kind that's in these journals. And then each one of them, I think, has a bookmark in it. This one's, Sarah, this is fabric, just scraps of fabric stitched on they were stitched together to make a fabric collage and then stitched onto black cardstock. So in that case, the only stitching that was through, so this is back in 2015, the only stitching that was through the paper or cardstock was to stitch the collage that was already pre-made to stitch it onto the backing. Okay, so there's that one. So I will show them all to you. I have 4, I think. And then I just tied them with, this is seam binding, dyed seam binding, to tie them closed. There's that one. Here's the next one. This one says, and these are dog tags. The tags are made from dog tags with paste paper glued on each attached to the sides. So this is Simplify and Original. And there's more of the, these look like they were twisted. They could have been, they may have been braided. I think maybe they were braided, as I recall. Anyway, ties, it's journal. These are jelly plate printed covers. End papers are from various printing techniques. Another little watercolor inspired by Joanne Sharp. And they're all the sizes they are based on the the books that I used, because what I did is I gutted the book. So I took the guts out of the book, and then the cover was intact. Hello, Starla. And there's another one of the, this may have been, no, it was a different piece of fabric. This is jelly plate printed fabric. Again, stitched onto the cardstock. And there's the other cover. But these are all of these are things that I did back in 2015. Here's another one. This one's a bigger book. This one I particularly love because it has hands on it, but all of them have the word journal. So it has the hands on it. This was a much bigger book than the other two. You can see the difference in the size. So there's that one and that one. So they're different sizes. And there's the inside of it. There's the little piece of artwork. And this, I actually wrote a page in it. Took some notes, but I'd only written one page in it, so I actually kind of ripped it out. I will do a neater job of getting rid of that. But that's the only thing that's in here. I figure if I'm giving it away, who cares, right? Same paper in all of them. And there's the treatment on the spine, and the tag says remember and express. So there's the tag on it. There's that one, and then this is the last one that I had. And again, it has ribbon. This time it's grosgrain ribbon on the side, and this one just has some fibers tied around the strings. This is also jelly plate printed. This was jelly plate printed on black. And again, the images of the hands, but this is a lot of metallic and white paint on black fabric. And so there's the end paper. Those are done on the jelly plate. Art feeds your soul. And this one, don't think this one has a bookmark in it. So we should rectify that, and we'll put this bookmark in there, because I almost always have extra bookmarks, and I don't think this one had one in it. No. Okay, so we'll put a bookmark in it. So there's that. Okay, so this one's a little bit different than the other ones, but not a whole lot. And this one has the book corners on, metal book corners on it. So anyway, hang out with me, and we will give these away once I can coordinate with Race. Hi, Julie. Hello, Mickey. So if I can get it coordinated with him, we'll give one away Monday night. I won't promise that, since I don't know for sure whether I can, get it worked out with him or not. So there was some information about these art books, and so I'll answer the question. I'll read you the questions and answer it. These were things that I include with this. How did art books come to be? My answer is these books were destined for a dumpster when I found them, which is true. After their rescue, I removed the text block to use in other mixed media projects. I love using a Jelly Arts gel printing plate to create my layered monoprints. With acrylic paint, stencils, masks, stamps, and various texture tools, I paint each piece of fabric. My jelly fabrics are used to cover the inside spine and the entire outer cover. And end papers are created with either jelly prints or paste papers, which is another kind of monoprint. The paper inside each art block is artist multimedia paper. It's not too heavy, approximately 80-pound acid-free paper used for pencil, color pencils, pen and ink, charcoal, marker, and oil pastels. This paper is suitable for wet media, although the pages will warp or buckle to some degree. How are the signatures attached? They are hand-stitched into the book with beautiful bookbinding wax linen thread. I braid or plait the binding thread tails because I like to think about the way each of our life experiences are entwined together. The embellishment charms. Well, it's interesting. They're upcycled from veterinarian tags. Each is a one-of-a-kind, covered with more of my handmade papers, and bears a message for each art book, except for the black one. The black one didn't have one of those. But if I can figure out where they are, excuse me, if I can figure out where they are, I'll add one to that, but I won't promise. I'll try to remember to do that. Let's see. Where did the idea for the title page originate? As an author, I love words, so I couldn't resist including a quote. Each art book contains a unique quote that I painted with pens and watercolor on the title page. Why a bookmark? You can never have too many bookmarks, and that is so true. Although lots of my books have dog-eared pages, I much prefer pretty bookmarks, so I made one for each art book. It's created from some of my jelly print fabric, which I then stitched to cardstock and add fibers. What do you use the art books for? They're perfect as a writing journal or an idea book or even as an art journal. I love a big fat art book brimming with goodness, filled with all kinds of treasures. I added hand-dyed seam binding ties, except for the black one. That's grosgrain ribbon, so you can safely keep everything inside. I hope you love using your art book as much as I love creating it for you. So there you go. All right, so if I can work it out with Race to help me with the drawing, we'll do it on Monday. So if you want to come back Monday night, I stream Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern. And hopefully we will be able to give that away. Okay? Hello, Hugh. Good to see you. I'm so glad you guys are here. Thank you for joining me on this Good Friday. All right. Let's see. We will now find out how well I am prepared. Another thing I found while I was cleaning out in the sewing room is this book that I'm going to show you. And then what I'm going to do with you today, which I hope I'm prepared for, is based on this book, or inspired, not based on, it's inspired by this book. Okay, this book is called Creative Quilting, The Journal Quilt Project by Carrie Patterson Bresnahan. And so this is the book. It is published by Quilting Arts, and it is a big, fat, very heavy book. And it, back when I bought it, it retailed for $35. I'm sure that's what I paid for it too. I don't know if you can find it today. It is old, but it is well worth the inspiration. It was published in I'm not entirely sure. I'm not seeing the publishing date. It's got to be here right in front of me, but I don't see it. Anyway, doesn't matter. But what they did is they started this series of art journal quilts, and they were a specific size, and then people submitted, I guess, photos of their work, and then they were hung and displayed at the quilting convention in Houston. And so that's what you see people looking at here. And I don't know what the rules were, other than I think they all had to be the same size. But some of these, I mean, if nothing else, I get very inspired by the imagery and the color combinations, and just some of it's paper and fabric, some of it's just fabric, but they're all journal types. They're quilt journals, quilt page, like journal pages, but on fabric. It had to be a certain amount of fabric, I think. I mean, look at that cat. So lots of architecture, lots of faces. I love this. Lots of faces. Some people divided the space up into smaller spaces. And some used photographs printed on paper or printed on fabric. Some incorporated hand stitching. Look at that. Some were about various physical illnesses that people had navigated, and things that they were working, that these served as a part of their healing journey or their processing journey. Some were hand-dyed fabric, some are Some are heavily stitched, some are stitched enough to hold the layers together. Yeah, just pretty amazing book of inspiration. Okay, so based on that, so here you can see where a lot of them are displayed. I know, it is pretty mind-blowing, and I don't know if this is still available. Let me try see again. Ooh, did you hear how heavy that hit? It's a big old fat book. I'm just trying to see when it was published, but I don't know why I can't find the publication date. It's got to be right in front of me somewhere. Maybe it's in the back. I just don't see it. I don't know. It's there somewhere. You guys can look it up. Hello, Alicia. Good to see you. So anyway, based on this big old fat book, I thought some of you have seen in times past, I don't have them over here yet, but you've seen my chakra pieces that I did that have hung in my studio for years over at my house on the cabinet doors that were in the kitchen area of that studio space. And those were directly inspired from this kind of journal idea. At the time that I created those, I was going through a very, very difficult part of a healing journey, mentally healing journey. And so they really helped me work my way through all of that particular thing. And so I thought, well, maybe we'll do something else kind of like it, but different. So those were chakra pieces. So they were each one centering on a color theme. So there was red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. So there were 7 pieces. And so each one was a color story and exploration for each of the different energy centers of the body. Okay, so what I decided to do is, and I prepared a lot of this in advance because otherwise you would watch me having to run back and forth and try to make order out of chaos, which is never a good thing. So what I've done is I've prepared in advance, semi-prepared, a background, okay? So I'm going to walk you through where I'm going and then we'll see how it turns out. So here's my background of, this is scraps. Oh, let me tell you, in going through all my fabrics over there, I have cut my fabric stash down to about a quarter or less of what I had, which is good. But you know how I have that scrap box that never ends? I yesterday dumped it on the floor and I picked up handfuls of it, and anything that was big enough that I could do something with, I kept it. The rest of it went in the trash. So my scrap box is now very small. I'm like patting myself on the back for doing that. Anyway, these are some of the big scraps that were left. And what I have done is I have a piece of, this is canvas. Okay, this is a piece of like drop cloth, like painter's drop cloth. And I sprayed it with spray adhesive, a temporary spray adhesive, and I picked out the colors that I wanted and I put them on top of that piece of canvas that I'd sprayed with temporary spray adhesive. And then over the top of that, I put a piece of black tulle, which is one of the things I really like to use to hold things in place. So it's got a piece of black tulle over the top, which is just laying on the top, and I've pinned it in place. And then I went through my other scraps of yellow things, yellows and golds, and I decided that I was going to make a bloom. And this bloom is kind of like, it's kind of reminiscent of a sunflower. And hello, Angela. Throwing away fabric. It was crappy fabric. It was little bits and pieces of junk. It really was. It was what it was ready for. What that fabric was ready for was to put it on a cutting board and use a rotary cutter and slice and dice it and turn it into fabric confetti, which is a great technique. And then you can actually recycle that and make that into something. But I'm like, I have to draw a line in the sand. And so, yeah, there's more fabric where that came from, believe me. So I used different kinds of fabrics here. Some of them are metallic. Quilter's Lame, which is cotton with a little bit of metallic in it. A lot of cotton fabrics. Some of them were hand painted fabrics, and I just cut out a whole variety of petals. And I used glue stick to glue them down onto a piece of stabilizer. And this whole bloom idea started because I was going through a box of jewelry that my mother deemed junk. And she gave it to me when I was doing lots of making lots of art dolls. And this was one of the things that was in there. And it's kind of a mosaic style pen. I don't know whether you'll be able to see, but it's actually little tiny bits of stone and glass and who knows what. And so I'm going to make that, let that be the center of this flower. I know, Dorothy says you will want those scraps next week. I know, you're absolutely right. You're 100% right. So this is going to be the center of my flower. At least that's the plan at the moment. Okay? I have some greens that I pressed, and so I have those ready to add a stem and some leaves of some kind. So I have those ready. So I pre-planned this, and we'll see how successful I was at my planning stage. And then this was in the scrap box. And this was a piece of fabric that I have I still have more of this fabric. And this was the scraps I had left from some project that, you know, I can't resist a good word. And there are still parts of things on here that are usable, like enjoy, bold, nice, heart, beauty, poetry. I mean, anything that's a regular word is good enough for me. Or phrases. Faith is a good one, especially for this weekend. Create, dream, inspire. I mean, who couldn't use those? Remember. Art. So I could piece some of those words together into my own phrases or use some of those, but this was in the scrap box, and so I thought we might use those and add a word, because I have a hard time not putting a word on something or a phrase. Okay? So there you go. So I have this much ready ahead of time. So the first thing we're going to do, and what I put also, I didn't tell you, what I put over these petals, these are I used the glue stick to attach them to a piece of cutaway stabilizer back there. And then I put a piece of yellow tulle over that to hold it together. The purpose of putting tulle over, and this is not netting. Netting is much coarser. This is tulle. This is like the stuff they make tutus out of. Okay, it's tulle. Tulle. The purpose of putting that over a surface like this is to stabilize it, and it will keep your presser foot, even if you're doing free motion work, it'll keep it from flipping up your petals and stuff, and so it allows you a great deal more success. Most of the time I will use black as my top tulle, the color of choice, but in this case, because it was so yellow and so bright, I used yellow, and that's what I found too. Eat more chocolate, right? Okay, so I'm going to take the background piece, which I said again is done on canvas. Now we're going to see how my sewing machine has made the move from one place to the other because it has not been used. I have not sewn or touched my machines for weeks and weeks, probably months actually. And the last time you saw me sew on a stream, that's the last time I used, that's the last time I touched the machines. So we are going to take the sewing machine and we're going to stitch the background. Now I may not get this whole project done today because we're about an hour into the stream. I only have an hour left, but we're going to see what we get done. Okay? We'll see. Okie doke. Let's see if we can, whether I've got the camera angled at the right place also. Okay. I have set up the machine just to sew with the feed dogs up. So this is not free motion stitching. You can do either one, but I decided that I would do a combination of both. The thread I'm using is a variegated thread from the Superior company called King Tut because it is my favorite thread for machine stitching. It is a let's see, 40 weight thread, I believe. Just looking, yeah, 40 weight thread. Okay, so I am set up and ready to go. Hopefully this shot will work for you guys. I'll try to keep my head out of the way. And yeah, I know I that Eat More Chocolate is definitely on there. Okay, so what we're gonna do is I'm just gonna kind of meander stitch this because I don't want to have to make it be too straight. But I'll show you how I'm gonna handle it. So let's see how this goes, okay? Let's see how this works. If you have any questions, be sure you put them, or comments, put them in all caps, if you will. And let's stitch, shall we? And I'm going to use a longer stitch length than normal, like a number 3 millimeter. So I'm just meandering from one end to the other, and hopefully my head doesn't get in the way too much here. I know that I say the same things all the time, but small scissors around your sewing machine. It will save your machine from getting whacked by great big scissors. So you can see I've just kind of meandered down here. It's nothing that is terribly straight, and that is by design. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move over. I'm going to go over maybe 3/4 of an inch. I'm making this up as I go along, by the way. And I'm just going to more or less follow that other line. And it doesn't matter to me if the lines are parallel to each other or not. And then I'm going to do the same thing again. You do have to make sure that you stay on top of the tool. If you start out with your presser feet under the tool, that's not going to go well. And I always clip the threads as I go along. Some people don't do that. That drives me nuts to have to give it a haircut. Any project, give it a haircut when I'm all finished, and so I take the time to cut the threads as I go along. And some people use a thread buddy or a piece of stitching, which I have one, not in this room, I don't think. Oh yeah, I do. Here, one of these little guys, and that's just a folded up piece of fabric that you start in the beginning and you end on this, and the theory is that it saves a lot of thread. I use that from time to time, but it's not to save thread, because I can afford to buy a new spool of thread. Okay, that is not my rationale for using that. My rationale for using that is that it helps keep the threads from it gives me an even start and stop. But, you know, most of the time, quite frankly, I don't use it. Because you have to remember to use it, you know, and so it's hard to remember for me. Limited attention span. Don't sew over pins. Take your pins out as you stitch. You will be happy that you did. Your machine will be very happy that you did, because it's so easy to hit a pin with your needle, and it is easy to break a needle or a pin, and even if you have on glasses, you can still injure your face or your eyes with a broken piece of needle or pin that flips up. And I have personally known people that has happened to before. You can also damage your machine, which is absolutely not a good idea. That can be expensive. You don't want to do that, especially if you have invested a sizable sum in a sewing machine. And if you're going to buy a decent machine, it is going to cost you some money. Okay, that just is the way it is. You can buy cheap machines, and some people do just because they want to use an inexpensive machine for doing paper art. But I will tell you that sometimes people have a great experience with that, and sometimes people have a horrible experience with that. So I'm in favor of buying. Get the most you can for the money you have available to spend on a machine. Now, having said that, I used to sell sewing machines, so it's I have to give that qualification. Whoops, sorry, wrong shot. But I used to know a lot about all of the current machines, and Clausman used to repair sewing machines, so we knew a lot more about what was going on with sewing machines back in the day. Okay, so that's what I did. I just stitched those kind of sort of parallel lines. I'm going to turn it around, and I'm going to start coming from the other end, and I'm going to do the same thing and finish it out. Okay, and then I'll look and see what you guys are saying in the chat. I'm stitching with the feed dogs up. I'm using a regular presser foot. This happens to be the presser foot that is known as an applique presser foot or an open toe presser foot. I like that because I have unlimited visibility to be able to see where I'm stitching. Now this kind of thing, this kind of stitching, you can stitch multiple directions. I often stitch in circles and spirals and loopy shapes and stuff like that. I just decided to do something that was a little more linear for this. You can do whatever you want to do, and I also could stitch in a grid coming across, you know, do a lines that go the opposite direction. I'm not going to on this for the sake of time, but you certainly, I could. And this takes a little bit of time, but you know, it's kind of like the slow stitching. It's like the machine version of slow stitching. Enjoy the process. And if you find that things are scooching and bubbling up a little bit, raise your presser foot, leave your needle down, raise your presser foot, let everything kind of relax a little bit, and then stitch some more. And usually that will take care of any kind of puckering or bubbling that you have, especially if you have prepared your fabric well enough so that you've used a glue stick or a temporary spray adhesive or something to help hold your fabrics in place. But by having the tool over the top of it, it stops all the little edges from wanting to flip up. And the black tool actually does not change the tone of the fabrics very much. You would think it would, but it really doesn't. And I find that it's less intrusive to use black than to use something like white. A lot of people, their first choice, and mine too, when I first started out, would be to put white tool over this, and the white just makes it look so milky, in my opinion. Now if you use purple or raspberry colored or navy blue or a teal colored tool or any of that will impact the color a little bit, but not as much as a pale color like white or pink or something like that. Just tends to make it look milky. Another thing you can use if you don't have tulle is you can use organza. My favorite organza to use on top of things like this is called rainbow organza. And when I find it, I usually buy it 5 yards at a time because I use it a lot. And I do love the rainbow organza because it has enough colors that's a very subtle variegation or ombre effect actually, and it's very subtle, but it does impact the color a little bit, and I like that. I'm just going to add a little bit more stitching right here. Okay, so we have the background stitched together. Here it is. Okay, so here is my background stitched. And if I want to come back in this and do more, I'm really trying to resist doing more stitching, but in my heart of hearts, I really want to add more stitch on. There's the back. I may have to. I may have to because I don't know if I can resist. To me, it's just so much more interesting if it has more stitching on it. Anyway, let me ask the chat. Hey, Kathy. For this, I don't have to reverse stitch or do anything at the ends because I'm going to be trimming this piece down to make it, because I oversized it. And so by the time I cut off, I would cut off all my reinforcing anyway. And when I get it to the size that I want it, I will stitch really, really close to the edge all the way around. That's going to stitch over the ends of the stitching. And then when I finish it, totally finish the piece, I will probably bind it with fabric binding, and that again will secure all the ends of the stitches. So yeah, okay, any other questions? No other questions. Okay, so do you think I should add more stitching or do you want me to quit? I'm gonna let the chat feedback on this, because my inclination and desire is I want to add more stitch on it. Like some big circle, like a circle type thing, you know. So I'm gonna let you guys tell me, what do you think? Should I add more or leave it the way it is? Starla says add. Hi, Jean. Oh, good. Good for you, Jean. I hope they do. More? Bye, Joan. Add more stitching. Okay. Go ahead and add more. Okay. You talked me into it. Okay. My voice is holding up pretty well today, by the way. I'm sure you can tell. So the next question is, yeah, we'll just use the same color. Okay, so let's see. Okay. All right. We're going to just pick a spot here. I don't want to start right in the middle. And I think maybe I'm going to go to my free motion foot because it's going to be quicker than using the regular presser foot. Okay, so I'm going to switch to the free motion foot. I'm going to put my feed dogs down in the down position. I'm already threaded up, so I don't have to worry about threading with the feed dogs up. Okay, so we're going to start here. We're going to start off center. And I'm going to pull up the bobbin thread. Okay, so I'm pulling up the bobbin thread so it doesn't make thread puke on the back of my work. Not that it matters, I just hate when it makes a big mess. Okay, so I have my threads in my finger here, and I'm going to take just a few stitches, and then I can cut these off. That way they're not in my way. Okay? All right, so here we go. When you do free motion stitching, you need to keep the machine speed running fairly quickly, and you need to move your hands more slowly. That will keep you from breaking threads. Okay, so get yourself started and then move the machine or move the fabric. But the machine speed is pretty fast. But free motion stitching means that I'm controlling the stitch length. Okay, it's like this is the piece of paper, That is the pen, and the thread, or yeah, the pen, and the thread is the ink. So I'm moving the paper, quote unquote paper, under the pen. Okay, that's the concept. Okay, so I'm going to stop with that in that place. So here's what we have at the moment. I just have some circle thing going on. And then I'm going to, I love to do machine stitching. I have to say, I do love me some good machine stitching. Let's start here. I can't help it. I do love some machine stitch, and the more stitching, the better. I ran on onto a piece of fabric that I had stitched with black thread, and I'm telling, it was like this. It was a piece of fabric that was collaged together with different fabrics. And I had so heavily stitched that with black thread, and at the time I remember thinking I had overdone it, but I'm telling you, when I ran onto that piece of fabric the other day, I'm like, I'm so happy I did that, because I just loved the way it turned out. You know, it was bright colors, and it was black thread, heavily stitched, free motion with black thread. Oh man, I loved it. Not that I would brag on my own stuff. Okay, so we got that little section done. And let's see, let's do a little something else. Let's do one more circle thing up here. So I'm gonna just kind of pretend like there's nothing else down there. I'm just gonna start in this spot, and I'm gonna do a little circleage up here. Okay, and then I'm going to just travel down the side of this because this is all going to get cut off here at the side. I'm just going to travel down there, and then I'm going to stitch just a wee bit more on this end, just in case any of it shows. And that's it. Okay. And I think we've got some stitching on all of it. Even stitched a little extra. Stitched a little flippy-do under here, which wasn't what I was planning. Okay. So okay. Any questions? You don't like to sew? It is fun. It really is. Okay, so let's take a look at it. This is the part I envision as the top. So it's just, I think the more stitching it has, the more I personally like it. Okay, so there it is. I'll show you from a distance. Okay, so it's just got some patterning, some color, and I could add more. I could actually go in here and add a whole other color layer of thread on the back, but I'm not going to. I'm going to resist. And here's the back of it, so you see the back. Okay, all right. So before we go, oh, we still have time. We still have some time. What am I thinking? I did that a lot quicker than I thought I would. Joni asked me what I was going to do with this piece. It's just going to be a journal, a little journal quilt. So there's a whole book of journal quilts that was produced back in the, I think it was in the early 90s, maybe late 90s, I don't know. It was a whole project that they did and then wrote a book about it. I don't know what organization it was, or if it was just a general call out to quilters to participate in this concept of journal quilting. Instead of like writing in a journal, it's doing things in a journal single page format that's based on this book, Creative Quilting, the Journal Quilt Project. And so I've done that before, and I thought that's kind of what I would do with this, because this kind of marks an important moment for me that I'm getting moved and I'm moving on with my life and so forth. So that's why I did it. Okay, so now comes the tricky one. Sorry, I keep choosing the wrong camera. I should be warmed up, so we'll find out whether I am. We'll find out. Is she warmed up or not? And adjust my camera or my machine just a little bit. Come in a little tighter here. Maybe not quite that much. Okay. So let's see what we can do with this. All right, logic tells me I should start in the back, and so that's what we're going to do. We're going to start in the back. And I really should use a different color bobbin thread. Okay, let's do this again. Need a different bobbin thread, not gray. So let me see if I've got a white bobbin thread I can use here. Pardon me if my head gets in the way here. Yeah, I do. Okay. Hopefully we'll have enough white thread to get through this because I don't have any more white thread over here. If I don't have enough thread, we will be using what I do have. All right, so quick change of bobbin thread because sometimes your bobbin thread will pull up to the top, and in this case a dark thread like gray is not going to look very good. Let's see. Yeah, we're gonna go for it. If I screw it up, you know what? I'll make another one. Kind of got overkill with the thread going on here. All right, let's get back to the place I was starting. Now, this I'm going to try to go a little slower because on this layer of petals, I need to stay on the petals, not outside of them. Because this I'm going to make as an applique, basically, and I'm going to get rid of the stabilizer behind it. I'm making this up as we go, so we're just gonna see how you know what? Here's the thing. This may not work at all. If it doesn't, oh well. Ugh, choose the right camera, Barb, for heaven's sakes. Okay. Well, we'll just see how this goes. Okay, so can you tell that I'm in my own little world over here? I'm just doing it. I'm doing my own thing over here. Okay. The book is still available on Amazon for $34.95. There you go. Maybe there's a used copy of it. It's going to work, and that's how you're going to inspire me to do something. Oh, good, Barbara. Good. I'm wondering what kind of stitching messes with your bobbin tension. I'm wondering if that kind of stitching messes with your bobbin tension. I loosen the top thread tension. I don't bother the bobbin thread tension. I only adjust the top thread tension on this machine. Now, you got to deal with your different machines differently. If I am dealing with my old Singer sewing machines that have the tension dial in the front of the machine, I'm probably not going to mess with those. But I'm not going to do free motion stitching on those. This is a newer machine, although it's probably 30 years old now. Newer than the one that's like 60 years old. This one I adjust the tension up here on the top, and it's super easy to put it back to the normal tension. So I loosen the top tension a little bit rather than adjust the bobbin tension. So I do compensate for balancing the stitch the way that I want to balance it. So that may not answer your question, but that's how I do it. Okay, so let's keep going and see how this shakes out. I'm just kind of analyzing each petal as I go along here. Alright, and I have one over here that I have to get back to the stitch. So I'm just going to restitch some of these until I get back over to that one petal that I need to redo, or that I need to catch because I missed it. A lot of these are better. Free motion stitching on something like this is better if you do more than one line of stitching per petal. You don't, I mean, it's not a hard and fast rule that you have to double stitch every petal, but I think it looks better if you do. So anyway, that's personal preference. Okay, so we're going to call it stitched. Okay, and we'll take a look at it and see what we think. Okay, so here's our little sunflower stitched. Okay, could go this way or it could go this way. I think this might have been the way. I don't know which way I had it envisioned. Doesn't really matter. Anyway, so we have free motion stitching on it. Okay, okay, now next step, we have to decide, we meaning me, has to decide, I have to cut this out. So I'm going to have to fussy cut it. And I have to tell you, quite honestly, I really am making this up as I go along. So let's see what happens next, shall we? So hang loose, let's see what happens. Oh, I'm going to have to turn that off. That'll drive us nuts. Wrong lever. Okay.
Okay, this is tearaway stabilizer, I think. Yes. Okay, so let's. I don't know how much of this I'm going to be able to actually tear away. All right, let's see how we do with trying to tear this away. This tears away much better if you have a shorter stitch length. So I will tear away what I can, and then I may have to come back and actually do some trimming to trim away any that might be showing. So I'm supporting the stitches with my hand, with my fingernail, and then tearing this stabilizer away. This is an embroidery stabilizer. One of the many things that I found in my, or went through, I should say, in my sewing room was I used to do a lot of machine embroidery, and I had a metric ton, and that is not an exaggeration, a little slight exaggeration, metric ton of different kinds of stabilizers. And so I went through them and culled out the ones that I would use still for the kind of work that I do now, because I don't do machine embroidery. My embroidery machine is very, by technology standards, is ancient, and I don't even have the software, nor do I have a computer that supports the software. I do have a program of software. That was not a true statement. It technically belongs to a good friend of mine. She sent it to me because she wasn't using it, but you have to have a PC, and I am a Mac girl, and so it's tearing away fairly well. Anyway, so besides that, they have improved everything probably dozens of times since I was doing a lot of machine embroidery. And the reason I was doing machine embroidery is because I was teaching it. So anyway, so I had a load of stabilizers, because you do need stabilizers for different kinds of fabrics and different situations. I remember in one of my classes that I was teaching, I had a lady who'd bought a machine, and she bought it to embroider with, and that's what she wanted to do. She had grandchildren, and she wanted to embroider things for her grandkids, and that was great. But the thing that is super important to know about for you to be successful in machine embroidery is the stabilizers. So you can see there's still a little bit of stabilizer in some places, so we're going to see if we can get rid of that. Okay? Wow, you found it on Thrift Books for $6.19. That is good. That's a good price right there. That is a very good price. I hope you bought it. Anyway, I had this, one of our customers, and it was because I would teach people how to use their machines, and so we always started with all the utility function of the sewing machine part first, because the sewing machine is different than the embroidery module, the embroidery part of the machine. And when it came time to learn about the embroidery module, we spent one entire class on stabilizers and which stabilizer worked for which situation. And that customer was so angry with me maybe angry is too strong a word. She was very frustrated with me. And she went to the owner of the store after the class was over. And she told me that she did not care about stabilizers, that what she wanted to learn about was how to embroider on her embroidery machine that she paid all of this money for. And all she had learned about embroidery was stabilizers. And the store owner fortunately came to my defense and explained to her that unless you knew how to stabilize the fabric properly and what stabilizers to use in what situations, for example, let me give you a real world example. If you want to monogram a towel, for example, a napped fabric, because towels are made of terry cloth, and there are different kinds of terry cloth. Some of them are very velvety, some of them are very loopy. Hi, Josephine. Oh, how nice. Thank you. That's very sweet of you. All terry cloth has a nap. It has a pile. In other words, the way that it's created, the fabric stands up away from the surface of the real, of the actual fabric. So you not only have to stabilize the back of a towel, but you need to stabilize the top of the towel with what's called a topping. Because if you don't put a topping on the top side of the towel, the pile will just stick up through all of your stitches. And it doesn't look good. It looks like there's something wrong with your machine, and it's just a pain in the neck, and it looks terrible, and nobody's happy with the end results, because it doesn't look good. But that's the kind of thing, and there are multiple kinds of toppings out there in the world. And so if you don't know what to use, you're going to choose the wrong thing, and you're not going to be happy with the result you get. And the other part of that equation is that it's not your end result. Like your embroidery is not going to last through laundering and drying and so forth. So anyway, okay, so let me go back where you can see what I'm doing, because I'm just now fussy cutting this out, which is going to turn this whole thing into an applique. Okay, so it's going to turn all these little petals of yellows and oranges and tans, it's going to turn the entire piece into an applique. So I can handle it with one piece instead of all of these little fussy pieces of fabric and trying to attach all those little fussy pieces of fabric onto my background. And so once I get around this may be where we stop for today and come back and work on it on Monday night, perhaps. Let me get rid of some of this. But do you see how the yellow tool just kind of disappears? You don't really see it. Unless I really pointed it out to you, you're not going to notice that that's there very much. Okay? Okay. So let me finish trimming this out. So anyway, the customer who was frustrated with me and essentially was tattling on my inability to teach her to use her embroidery module to her satisfaction. She went home with a couple of kinds of stabilizer and proceeds to be very frustrated with the embroidery work that she produces. And she brought back in a couple of samples of her embroidery work and showed it to someone. It wasn't me. She showed it to probably the owner of the store or the other person that was working there, who was very accomplished with the embroidery machines, and she complained that there was something wrong with her sewing machine, because her embroidery machine, because it was, look what a terrible job it was producing. Where she was reminded that she was using the wrong kind of stabilizer for whatever the application was. Usually people want to applique or embroider on t-shirts and sweatshirts. So that's like the first thing they want to do. And I will tell you that that is one of the harder, successfully embroidering on knit fabrics, stretchy fabrics of any kind, successfully is, you got to know what you're doing, and you got to choose the right stabilizers and all that. So all of that long story to tell you that if you have an embroidery machine and you're not being terribly successful with it, the issue is probably, number one, stabilizing is not quite what it needs to be. Okay, so let's look at this, and let's back out a little bit so you can see a little bit better. So this I envisioned as the top, and so we're going to put this sunflower probably, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to have to cut down my piece to actually 8 by 10, so I know exactly where I can, what distance I have, the space, the physical space I have to work with. And so I'm going to probably place it about like this. The very, very last thing I will do with this, when the entire thing is completed, is put the pin on it. This is an old pin from my mother. And the thing that's cool about using old pins like this, first of all, this is like going to be like putting a crowbar through the fabric, so it's going to poke quite a hole. But the great part about using something in this way is if you leave the pin back on it and pin through the artwork, then this is always going to be usable. And I do that with things like crystal pins. I have a lot of the old rhinestone pins from back in the 60s, 50s, and 60s, and some of them earlier than that. And I have a bunch of those, and I've used those on pillows. I used to do a lot of fiber artwork on pillows because it was a great way to show people different techniques. It's like us making tags or cards. In the mixed media realm, you can show people how to do things on a smaller format. So in the fabric world, I could do those on pillows, and I often use those brooch type pins on the pillows. But the great part, thinking ahead, was I used it as a pin. So I could, when I was tired of the pillows and I didn't want the pillowcases anymore for anything, I would just unpin, take the pin off, and either discard the pillow or cut it up and use it for something else. So this is the kind of that thought process here. All right, so that's the concept of how that's going to go. And then I have these greens that these are all scrap fabrics that I will use probably to do the stem, and I love this one with the yellow dots on it. Use that for the stem and a couple of leaves and for my sunflower sort of shape, and then I'll figure out what happens next. Like I said, about 40 times today. I'm making it up as I go along. So that's what I'm doing. And then I'll maybe add a word or something at the end. We'll see where it goes. I don't know. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me today. I wish you all a very peaceful weekend. A lot of crazy going on in the world, and I'm glad that you're here. I had to go on a mouse hunt, find my mouse. Speaking of mouse hunts, when I was cleaning up yesterday in the sewing room, I'll tell you a quick story before I go. One of my favorite things that used to happen in my studio space, you remember Chance and Charlie? You're welcome. I'm going to tell you one more story before we go. If you guys go, that's fine. In my studio space, Chance and Charlie lived in the studio. They were my Siamese cats. Both of them are gone now. And they lived in that space. And Chance particularly loved these little fabric mice that were about this long, and they were made of fake fur. So they were like tiger stripe and zebra stripe and leopard, and they were crazy. They had feather tails. The feather tails always went away immediately because they would. Charlie loved the feather tails. Chance loved the mouse. And they were small enough and lightweight enough he could fetch them, and he'd toss them, he'd play with them and everything. Anyway, we had multiples of those mice. Like they came 5 to a pack, and we probably had 20 of them, because he would bat them all around the studio, and he would hit them and then go chase them, and they would wind up under my shelving units and stuff. So pretty much every night for several years, Clausman, my husband at the time, would come in there every night, and Chance would go to him, not Charlie. Chance would go to him and start meowing, and he wouldn't shut up until Clausman got the yardstick, and he would get down on his hands and knees with Chance right beside him with his rear end up in the air, and he would lay on the floor and look under the all of the furniture units with Clausman. So here are the two of them on the floor looking under, and Clausman's got the yardstick, and he's mouse hunting. So he'd stick the yardstick under there and kind of rake it under the furniture, and out would come usually 1 to however many other mice Chance had managed to hide under there, because he would shoot one under, sometimes just under the edge of the cabinet, and he could reach it and grab it back out, because that was his favorite thing, to kind of get it under there, and then he'd fish it back out. Well, then he'd hit it a little too far, and it would go back. So anyway, that whole story to tell you, this was a nightly thing in my studio for years, until Clausman dementia took hold, and he lost the ability to even remember about that. Totally lost the ability to remember it. And so then I would have to find the mice for Chance, and then after a while, everybody was, it just, there was no time to go mouse hunting. So yesterday I'm finished. I'm almost done in the sewing room, decluttering, de-stashing, figuring out what goes to Goodwill, what goes to trash, that kind of stuff. And I moved a cabinet, and underneath that cabinet were 5 mice. And it gave me a moment of just momentary sadness, because I don't have the cats anymore. We called them the sponsors of the show, and I don't have them anymore. They're both gone, but they both live very long, very happy lives. And then this joyful moment of remembering Clausman and Chance and all the fun and pleasure they had mouse hunting together every night. So I say all that to say I had to go mouse hunting to find my mouse. It was under my sewing machine. So anyway, you don't need to cry. It was a good memory. It was a very good memory. I know, it was so funny. Anyway, all right, all that to say, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your weekend. And we are having family here this weekend, and we're dog sitting, and so it's going to be a crazy place here this weekend, and that's a good thing. So I will see you Monday night, and if I can get Race on board, we will give away a journal on Monday night. Don't hold your breath, because I got to coordinate with him. I will do my best. So until I see you, hopefully, again, remember to get creative today, because it's easy. And I'll see you before you know it. Bye for now.